like I just want to say welcome to the show, William. Thanks for taking the time to come on. We really, really appreciate it. First person we've had on the show, not in the US, but from Denver.
Nice.
And first underwater photographer.
Hmm.
So is that how you would describe yourself firstly?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I am an underwater photographer and I do live in Denver, Colorado, which there's not a lot of us here. And I often joke that I'm like the most famous underwater photographer in all of the Denver metro area. Because I'm like the only underwater photographer in the Denver metro area.
Are there a lot of creatives out in Denver way? I wouldn't know.
A lot of critters?
Creatives, not creators.
Oh, a lot
creatives.
of you could tell where my mind is all the time. Yeah, there's a fair amount of creatives here. In the last really year or so, or even less, I've been getting more into underwater pool photography and fashion photography. So I've been meeting a lot more creatives lately than I had before, where I was mostly focusing just on ocean and dive. So it's cool to start to meet more people in the community here.
Yeah,
that is a good point actually, because I suppose you can do stuff a certain way, but then if you go more into the commercial side of things, you do end up doing a bit more of like, you meet other creatives, but you also might do fashion stuff and a bit more product based. Like, I don't know, you just end up, it's like different sides of the same industry in a way.
So
depending on what you shoot is kind of, it's a completely different network in a way, or a different way of shooting or whatever.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And it's all like optimizing, you know, just like with your life, you got to optimize your life to where you live by doing the activities and the outdoor stuff that are around you. It's same with work. Like, I've got to optimize my situation being an underwater photographer in Denver. So that just lends itself to the work that's already here, which is fashion, which is underwater pool photography.
Nice. What kind of led you to like getting into the world of underwater photography? Because obviously, for those that haven't checked out your Instagram yet, I'm sure they will, that you've got an amazing plethora of underwater imagery of all kinds of different like animals, fish, whales. It's absolutely incredible. So is that where it all started for you? Or did it start with people first on land and then you went into the ocean? How did it work?
Yeah, it definitely started with the water.
Okay.
I got scuba certified here in Denver when I was like 12 years old. For my 12th birthday, my parents got me certified. And it was, you know, we got certified in like a little pond behind a Walmart that was just teeming with trash and crap. But I just loved being underwater. When I was younger than that, my parents had a hot tub and I would sit at the bottom of the hot tub and just suck the air bubbles out so I could stay underwater, which it was probably like 03 or whatever, like probably not the most healthy thing to be doing, but I was still just trying to get under there. So then, you know, I kept diving. I was always into being underwater, always into wildlife and animals. And then in college, I took a photojournalism course that was pretty epic. We had the Democratic National Convention in Denver that year. I think it was like 2008. And Barack Obama was here, and I got a press pass, and I was like front stage for the convention, and that was pretty epic. That was kind of where I was like, okay, like there's a lot of stuff I can do with photography, but I don't really know what I want to do, like which direction I want to go. And then I studied abroad in Australia and did my scuba dive master, and I bought a camera like for cheap, and that's when I started taking underwater pictures. And that was really, I didn't know it at the time that was going to be my career. Like, I knew I loved it, but I also loved science, and I wasn't sure if I was going to pursue science or if I was going to pursue photography. And one thing led to another, and then in like 2013, 2014, I started shooting full time.
Nice.
Yeah, that's interesting as well, because obviously it can be quite difficult to find something you want to do for work, but then to find that and then specifically go into water photography is like, so it's super niche, like super niche. So like it's interesting how you kind of started off separately with just water when you was younger, and you like dive in and like the jacuzzi, the hot tub, sorry, and things like that. And now all of a sudden it's like, right, it's weird how all this comes full circle, and you have like your photography and you have your water, and now you like mash them together, and
Absolutely.
The rest is history kind of thing.
And it's like the wildlife part too. Like before I really specialized in underwater, I did a lot of wildlife photography, travel photography, other things. But then underwater was just always like what I was most passionate about. And there was obviously much less competition with underwater. So eventually like my career kind of like, okay, am I going to do science? Am I going to do photography? And then it kind of like went together until like it was obvious that underwater photography and underwater video was where my future was going to be.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
You just
obviously
followed
you're in
the
Australia
passion, yeah.
as well, so that was like the most beautiful place to, I imagine, do it with like the sea creatures and everything they have there.
Yeah,
It's,
it
like,
was
incredible.
epic.
Yeah.
And it was so cool because I was working on this boat called the Kalinda. It was like a small liveaboard dive boat, and one of the main clients was the uni there. So it would just be like all my friends going out on the Great Barrier Reef for like 3 to 5 days, diving, partying, having fun, and then like I was half working, half partying, and it was perfect.
Living the dream. Living
Yeah.
the dream.
It was
But
great.
also, how my first kind of question, obviously coming from like more the commercial side of photography with like, you know, brands, people, etc., lifestyle stuff. How do people that are underwater photographers specializing in wildlife start like making money? Like how does that work?
It's tough. It's
Yeah.
tough. So when I first decided that I was going to pursue underwater photography as a career, I started off by being kind of an underwater cameraman, like a freelance cameraman. And I was living in Monterey, California at the time. And, you know, I shot some pretty awesome projects. Worked on Big Pacific, which was a PBS and a bunch of other people project in Monterey. And I worked on some other small things. I shot for Pacifico Beers and a handful of other companies. But it was full freelancing. It was all gig based. Like I would have work for a few weeks at a time and then be scrounging for more work. And it wasn't sustainable. Like it was really stressful and it wasn't working for me. So that's when I realized that for me, it was all about like the long-term clients. And to figure that out, I kind of saw this need for being able to bring underwater photography in with marketing and then pitch that to like scuba diving companies and other companies that are already like in that space and approach them. And that's when I got my first like year-long contract. So that was when I kind of decided that I could actually do this as a career, because as a freelancer going from gig to gig, it didn't work for me. It was too stressful and not sustainable. So,
Yeah.
and ever since then, I still always try to keep the long-term clients are my bread and butter.
Yeah. It makes me think that did you specifically target those people? Like, did you have to kind of put together your own like package or pitch or whatever and go to them? And would they not be traditionally into photography or video or whatever, but you kind of was like, hey, like, look, I do this. You guys need stuff like this. Can we work together? Or was it a little bit more like you got like maybe one client and then it kind of went from there? Like, did you bounce through the network from there, or was it just?
It was like I was already doing the freelancing, so I already had some relationships with some of these clients, project based, and I saw that they really had this need for both the content and for like help getting the content out there. So then I approached these clients that I was already working with and been like, hey, look, you know, I'm doing this all the time. You guys have this big need in the company. How about we set up something a little bit more permanent?
Okay, yeah. Because I wanted to highlight that because it was just interesting how sometimes like people, in a way, like the clients technically don't know until you kind of like ask them or show them like this, and then they consider it. And a lot of times, especially as a freelancer, you can just sit and wait for the work to, or like a producer to hopefully get in contact with you or something. But a lot of times it is kind of like going out there and like seeing where the opportunity is.
You've got to go out and get it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that continues to this day, where it's like work comes to you, but also if you're not going out there and getting it, it's not enough. So still same thing.
Yeah. And the different types of clients as well, as you said, like the bread and butter ones, and also it's You know, like everyone gets used to it. Matt, do you have a question? I feel like I'm holding you off from saying
I
something.
do, I do, I do. I'm curious. While we're on the, I want to just stay on the underwater photography kind of
Mm.
for a second, especially with
Sure.
wildlife. What is the most difficult animal to shoot underwater?
No,
And
good
what, or
question.
can you tell us like a really incredible experience that you've had with an animal underwater whilst you're like photographing it?
Yeah, absolutely. As far as the most difficult, I mean, it's so hard to say. A lot of it's based on the conditions. Like, is the water clear?
Mm.
Is there current? Is there surge? What, is the animal on the bottom or is it mid water? How big is the animal? So it's really hard to say as far as what sort of animal, but definitely there's like types of behavior that's really hard to capture. I could tell you a few stories though on some of my
Absolutely.
favorite subjects.
Yeah.
Definitely like whales are the coolest thing to photograph, I think. I love small animals, but I'm still like a megafauna. Like I like megafauna the most. And in 2023, I'll probably go back next year. I spent some time in the South Pacific photographing whales, and like I've seen them other times. I went to the Azores, I dove with them a bunch, but it was really murky water. And that was my first time like seeing whales in clear water. And the interactions between the whales was something like I never ever expected. Like we had a whale that just wanted to get as close to us as possible the entire day, to the point where most of the time we were swimming backwards and the whale was swimming right at us, and like the captain was getting nervous because they're covered in barnacles, and even though it's super friendly and just wants to hang out with us, like one little bump and you can get scratched up. And yeah, it was
Wow.
just like spinning in circles on its tummy and trying to like imitate us. And man, it was the best day ever. Like every time I got out of the water, I was just blown away. And then I would look back, and there's my friend in the water with the whale, like, "Hey, play with me, play with me, play with
That's
me."
crazy.
So that was pretty much the coolest day I've ever had, like doing
Yeah.
underwater photography. I've also just had a lot of people ask like if it's dangerous or if I get scared down there.
Yeah.
And honestly, the answer is very, very rarely do I feel nervous or scared. I photographed American crocodiles in Mexico,
Oh, damn.
Banco Chinchorro, and it was so funny because it was like that kind of thing where I was in the water with these 12, 13-foot crocodiles, and for the most part they're chill, but then if like another one comes up, they don't go for you, but they go for other crocodiles. So I was filming one, and the crocodile just like beelines towards me, and I think he's going for me, and I kind of like Matrix style like drop down, and he goes like right over my head.
Oh
And there
my
was another
God.
crocodile that he was going to fight with, so he goes over me and kind of scuffles with this other one and swims away. But
Jeez.
whatever. And then I was filming him some more, like, this close, like a foot away from his mouth. Didn't really think anything of it. And then I got out of the water and I was like reviewing footage on the back of my camera. I'm just like, what the fuck was I doing? Like, I was that close to this
Yeah.
giant crocodile. And that's kind of when I was like, oh, but
It's after the
yeah,
fact that you.
after
Yeah.
the fact, totally.
Crazy. That is.
I suppose as well, when you're just trying to get the shot, you're almost just like immersed in like, whoa, look at this, the composition, all this, and then
You're
not
so
until later on
present.
when you're like, oh my God, like, was I actually the
So
one
yeah,
stood holding
absolutely so present. And that's really my favorite thing about underwater photography in general is, I'm super ADHD, my mind's always going a million miles an hour, but when I'm in the water it's just like pure focus, like pure flow. And yeah, there's nothing like it that I've been able to find in my life. It's just it's like my happy place. It's where I relax the most. It's great.
Nice. Have you had any experiences underwater with sharks or orcas or anything like that?
Yeah,
this?
both. I haven't
Was
had great orca dives as far as like footage and visibility, but I had a pretty epic day with orcas.
yeah.
So my friend was living down, and he's been living in Baja for a long time, probably like 10, 11 years now. And he's obsessed with orcas. He's one of like the top orca scientists and orca cameramen. And he was going to take us out. We were working with Citizen Watches on a commercial shoot. And, the client's like, okay, we had 2 days to shoot. and we were trying to capture, orcas in the water hunting mobula rays. And Eric's like, bro, I've been living down here for 8 years at the time. My friend Eric Higuera, been living down here for like 8 years at the time. I've seen this kind of behavior a handful of times, and I've been searching for it this whole time. So like, you can pretty much tell the client that it's a hoop dream. Like, we'll try our best, but it's probably not going to happen. We set out, and then literally like 30 minutes after disembarking, there's just this giant splash in the water, like massive, massive splash. And my buddy starts freaking out, like, oh my God, they're here, they're here. And yeah, it was orcas hunting mobulas, killing them, throwing them in the air, like right there, 30 minutes after we got there. And he's just like, I can't believe that, like, this is insane. It's so lucky. But yeah, then we jumped in, we filmed it. The first time I saw the orca, it was a big male, and it was terrible visibility, like 10-foot visibility. And I just looking around, kind of swimming, pretty freaked out because I've never seen these animals before. I keep looking back at my buddy, and then it just looked like, oh.
It looked like that.
For those listening, there's all kinds of screen effects going on because of my hand signals right now. But it just looked like a giant, like, I don't know, beach umbrella, white blob coming out of the distance. And it looked so, so huge. And it was just like its head. And it came past me. And then, yeah, we spent the rest of the day filming them hunting mobulas. Because the visibility, the underwater footage was okay, but the drone shots are just like insane. Just like,
oh, sick.
Oh, yeah.
Orcas right next to us chasing the rays. And yeah,
the orcas are the one things that I would love to see in person. I feel because they're incredible. They're deadly, aren't they? They're like apex predators.
Yeah, for sure.
But
so
are they
smart.
okay with? Yeah, and are they okay with humans? Or like,
yeah, absolutely. There's been the only attacks have been in tanks, like with trainers.
Yeah,
there's never been anything in the wild, and they're so intelligent. Like, that's obviously by design. But people are getting in the water with orcas more and more, and like, I really hope that people are respectful, tourism operators are respectful, because they are such apex predators, and there's more and more people getting in the water with them. So I think that it's a tough subject, because I think it's kind of getting to a point where it might be a little bit too much, and
something might happen.
It's like everywhere. It's like everything, humans ruin everything. I've been to so many places where the wildlife is amazing, and then the tourism finds out, and then there's just like 60 people swimming with one whale shark, and the whale sharks are getting cut up by boats. And so hopefully that doesn't happen with orcas. I'm really hoping.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll get on to this topic later, but I just wanted to ask, like, is there because when I think of shooting like a whale or like an animal, I imagine, for some reason, obviously, when you put a bit more thought into it, it's clear that this isn't the case, but you kind of imagine that the animal is like there for the shoot when it's obviously not. And so I'm wondering, what is the unpredictability, or is there anything? Because when you're underwater, right, not only you have the skills with the camera, but you also have to have the skill of scuba diving and all this stuff alongside that. And like, is there things that you prepare for with not just yourself and your gear, but also, the animal, and what if the animal decides to like move? And it's like, obviously to like a giant whale, moving a little bit is just like whatever, but to us it might be like right down the other side of the ocean. I don't know. So
I also imagine that affects your lens choice, because
exactly, yeah.
If you've got a massive whale and it's coming, you think you're going to be quite far away, you've chosen a particular lens, but then if it's come really close to you, you need a super wide lens to get it all in. But then like, it's hard to get back on a boat and change that, I imagine, with the water housing, because again, we'll get onto this. I have no idea about water housing, but you having to change, like if you had a 24 to 70, you can't like zoom in and out, I imagine. I don't really know, so it's all new to us. So,
and there's no like real telephoto underwater anyway, because of the visibility. I shoot with the 100mm sometimes, but that's a macro lens, and I very rarely am shooting it for like the telephoto effect. It's more for the macro effect. But yeah, kind of, I think that a lot of new underwater photographers and I'm sure I was like this too at the beginning. All these things are super unpredictable, and you can do what you can to prepare for the shoot, but visibility, weather, the animals, it's all super like you're at the whim of all these different factors. So the skills in scuba diving and in free diving and like your comfort with the camera, it's like those are the most important factors to prepare for the unpredictable things. Scuba diving, like there's the safety aspect, but then there's also just like the comfort, like being really comfortable underwater, having really good buoyancy so you can keep your camera really stable. Like these are all important factors before you even think about something like your shutter or your ISO or whatever it might be. So because of the unpredictability, the main thing is like having that, you know, muscle memory for how to operate your camera, and then having good skills underwater. If you're free diving, a lot of these animals, it's free diving instead of scuba diving. So having the ability to take a big breath and hold your air in for a long time, stay underwater as long as you can. And then, yeah, the lens thing, as like wanting to switch lenses or not knowing what lens to use, it's like a constant struggle. It's like you put on the macro lens and then you go diving looking for shrimp, and a whale comes up to you, a shark comes up to you, a dolphin, and you're like, God damn it, I wish I had my wide angle. And then same thing. It's like you have your wide angle, you're going down, you think you're going to see a turtle or something big, and then you see like a insane frogfish that's eating. So it's like everything is, it's so hard to know which lens you want to use and to have the right one. In an effort to begin to address this, I did just get a second housing. So now I can have a macro setup and a wide angle setup at the same time. Obviously, if you're scuba diving, it doesn't matter. You can't bring one of them unless you have like an assistant holding your second camera for you. But for pool photography, this is like huge because like my 100mm macro, it's so beautiful for close-ups, so beautiful for like slow-mo video underwater. But without the like wide angle, like you can't really shoot the whole scene. You can't really get everything that you need. So now I've got 2 housings, 2 cameras, and I can switch out in between macro and wide angle super easy.
Fair. My next question was going to be, what's your most used lens? But now you've got 2 bodies. You kind of you can use both. But what is your most
but I
used?
only use it. Yeah, I only use a handful of lenses. Probably my favorite lens, for sure, is the 28-70 f2.0 Canon lens.
Nice.
It's so sharp, and it you know, it's, you can, when you're shooting at 70, you can still shoot fairly small animals. It's perfect for underwater portraits. It's like, it's a really, really great lens. My only complaint is that the focal distance is kind of wide, so you can't get as close as I would like to with some of the smaller animals. But it's super good. And then a lot of, when I first started using the 28-70, like I was talking to underwater camera stores, and they're all kind of like, why would you want to shoot 28-70 underwater? Like everybody wants wide angle. Everybody wants either super macro or like super wide for underwater photography. But then like I think a lot of the vast majority of underwater photographers are looking at shooting as far as wildlife and not people. And like for me, that 28-70 is just such a perfect portrait lens. Plus I can still do the wildlife, and I can get fairly wide. So it's just, it's great. And I'm so glad I didn't let the camera stores talk me out of trying to use it underwater, because I just love it. And then the 15-35 I use all the time too.
Okay. And kind of that, puts us nicely onto photographing people underwater. You're obviously the man behind the Billie Eilish album cover, which is a phenomenal album cover. It looks incredible, and obviously super different to everything that you're kind of, on your Instagram. It's like all this wildlife stuff and it's all this underwater stuff, and then boom, Billie Eilish's album cover. Like, how first, I want to talk about what that process looks like start to finish, because I know our listeners will be really interested.
Yeah.
But firstly, how does that opportunity come about?
Yeah, it's so funny because of that. Like you're saying, my Instagram is primarily focused on underwater wildlife with some scuba diving and free diving mixed in the batch. I mean, more recently, like I said, I've been doing more portraits and underwater like modeling, but at the time, I wasn't. And it was, the whole story is so wild because it was like a super challenging time for me personally in my personal life. I was going through all this stuff with like my family and just like the most stressed out I've ever been, like a really, really hard time for me personally.
Yeah.
And then I was on a work trip and I got an email from somebody at a record label. And, you know, I wasn't 100% sure if it was legit or what it was. And then when I reached out to them, they were still being pretty vague about stuff. But eventually we like had a conversation and I realized that, yeah, there's like a big musician who's trying to get an album cover shot. And I still didn't know much more than that,
Right.
but I was keen for it. So we kept talking and it's so funny. Like you're saying, how I mostly have wildlife. What I heard later, was that Billie found me from Instagram from like my photos of people diving with whales. So
Oh, no way.
she was looking for like, you know, you can check out the cover. It's kind of it's like her falling into the abyss, and we shot other photos through like the back of the albums. Looks like she's really like deep down in the deep abyss. So she saw some of my super wide angle photos of like small people diving with whales, and she was like, okay, this is kind of like the vibe, the colors, the scheme that I want to do.
Right.
So even though it's crazy that, because there's so many people who like only do, especially in LA, underwater like portrait photography. Like that's their specialty 100%. And it definitely wasn't mine, but because of those images, like she thought that I was the man for the job. So I was like, word, let's do it.
You
Yeah.
never know who's looking at your work. You never know
Totally.
who's watching.
Yeah, and also what's interesting is people can see your work and they can like imprint like their needs of what they might need that for onto like your work and be like, I can see myself in this. So like,
Yeah.
oh, this will be really good. So it's almost like no matter what niche you're doing or what you're shooting or what subject, it's like the people who are looking for that type of stuff can just like switch it out for what they need, and they can see how your skill will apply to like their thing. So that's really fascinating how like, you know, but maybe Billie would have not even had like the idea of that 2 years prior, but then 2 years later, all of a sudden she needs like an underwater shot, and next minute you're on the list, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's such a good point about like people imprinting how they see images on your work. That's cool.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
I thought about
yeah.
that.
what was the pre-production like then for this kind of shoot? Because obviously, you know, in my mind, it's like it's one of the biggest album covers of not even just the year, the 21st century. I think like the artist that she is, and it's such a big album cover. So what does the pre-production look like on an album cover that's that big?
I mean,
and the famous person to that extent as well. Like I imagine
Yeah.
the safety. Like,
yeah,
is
it's
dialed
funny
up.
because they're like, okay, like they like the concept was 100% Billie's idea. She knew exactly what she wanted. Like she's a creative genius in a bunch of different ways. So she knew what she wanted from the beginning. So I didn't like develop the concept or anything. She knew what she wanted, herself falling through this door into the deep abyss. So they asked me like how I would do it, and I have all these ideas, but it was mostly not shooting in an enclosed environment because, you know, I have had very little experience shooting in pools at the time. And I was like, yeah, we could do this in all these different locations. And I'm sending them these different spots and operators and all these dream things. And they're like, oh, actually, like, we need to shoot this in like 2 weeks. So I was like, what?
Oh yeah, there's always the it's never a long timeline really. It's always
No.
like
It was like literally 2 weeks. And they're like, actually, we booked out a film studio in Hollywood, and we're going to shoot it there. And, you know, I'm kind of like, well, we can do it, but like instead of recreating the ocean, we should just shoot it in the ocean. But sure, like whatever, I'm on board either way. Let's do it.
I imagine there is like differences as well, like based on like the open water versus like a pool and how light it like interacts with like, you know, the currents and all this sort of stuff. Like I imagine that was probably like, oh well, that's going to change kind of like the way the water looks. Even
and I was
in
so
general.
worried about it before the shoot because it was pretty new to me. Like I was contacting a bunch of my other friends. I have a couple of friends who shoot underwater cinema, so I was talking to them, talking about lighting, talking about backdrops, all that. And I did enough research where I was definitely prepared, but it was still pretty new to me. So a lot of it I was still kind of dodging back and forth, figuring out the best way to go. Luckily, I did have those contacts, and I did have the people I could talk to. And 100%, it was just like I had the experience, and I knew that even though my background is mostly like underwater wildlife, I've also shot a ton of promotional material for different dive-related companies. I've done, a bunch of commercials, so I'm really used to pulling together pieces, especially from my industry, like on a shoestring, being multiple things, being the producer and the shooter and the editor and all this stuff. Like, I mean, like a lot of us are in this world. So I was confident, but it was still super new to me. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's the problem solving, isn't it? Like I'd say to Matt all the time that really like photo shoots and film shoots are just, it's not, if something happens, it's no, when this happens, do we have like a solution in place just in case? And so you're almost like trying to, if you've not got too much experience with like a certain location or a shoot thing, then it's a bit like, I can prepare as much as possible, but like we may come across something that we have no idea how to deal with until the moment. And in a way, like I think, especially with a client, it feels like as a professional, you always need to account for those things, but every single shoot always has something where it's like, yeah, that's never happened before. Let's do this. And then it's just stacking that. So yeah, like it's, just.
And that's how
crazy.
It was too. I was kind of like, well, I can do, I can prepare for it as much as possible. I also put together a team. So I had a couple people helping me on the shoot who were pretty experienced. So I had that helped my confidence. But then at the same time, it's like, yeah, we're going to do it. It's going to come out how it comes out. There might be problems. It might be good. It might be bad, but I'm prepared for it, and I'm just going to do whatever I did. And that's how I went into it. I just went into it like, all right, we're going to do this. I'm ready for it. Like, we'll do the best we can. And then the timeline for shooting, once again, it's like it was 2 weeks away, and then we only had 1 day to shoot it and like a couple hours the day before to set things up. So I flew out to Hollywood, and like last minute we got backdrops for the pool, and I didn't like the color, so we switched out the color like super last minute. We were shooting in a huge film studio, like a giant, massive, I don't know how many, like 100,000 square foot, whatever studio. But then in the middle was a box, like a square in the middle of the studio floor where they could fill that up with water and make that into like the underwater studio. So it was basically
I think there's a behind the scenes video on YouTube which we can throw up on screen for
we'll throw that up
people
on
that are
screen
watching
whilst you're talking about it, because that's actually a really good. Billy posted it on YouTube only 3 months ago, but it's it's already got over 1 million views, and it's really insightful. So Cam will make sure that's going up whilst you're talking about it.
Yeah, I was happy she posted.
But obviously, people listen as well on audio, so maybe it's a good idea to explain the.
Carry on explaining. How deep is this box?
So it's basically 20 by 20 by 10. So it's 20 feet on all the sides, and then 10 feet deep.
Right. Is that a good depth for you? Because I know that you said that sometimes in terms of visibility and also depth of things it can change. So is that okay to be 10 feet
for
deep
studio it's a little different with visibility and everything else. It was good depth. I always 10 12 feet is usually really good for studio, like underwater studio stuff. So it was perfect. Okay. And the water was really warm. They heated up to the right temperature.
I did see that on the video.
It was steaming. The water was steaming off, and I was like, I need to ask him what temperature it was, because even though the water was steaming, I was thinking like, was it still actually warm? Was it like nice? Because obviously everyone was in wetsuits.
It was body temperature.
Okay.
So it was super warm.
Yeah.
For me, it was like hot. We shot such sick images too of her like in the mist above water. They never ended up using any of them,
Oh, sick.
but they were so dope. Just like
Yeah.
so trippy
That's-
and weird and like cutting through the fog and so
Yeah.
sick.
Typical. It's typical that the photographer always likes other pictures than what the client ends up using, and you're like, these are way better, and they're like, yeah, but this one for the commercial aspect is like, so yeah, the photographer sees different stuff.
I want to
Um,
ask about the
what?
light then, because so you know how obviously for those that haven't seen the album cover, again, like Cam will put
I'll
it up on screen, but she's falling into the abyss and it gets darker. Obviously, the further down you get into that 10-foot like box, how are you like? I have no idea. In terms of lighting, when it comes into water, I'm guessing you need some pretty hefty lights to pierce through the water and light her. But also, you don't want too much because you still want that like gradient into darkness.
Yeah,
Yep.
and imagine there's a lot of bounce as well, like from the surface, and then also refraction and caustics, I think it's called, where you get like the reflection off the surface of the patterns off the surface of the water going down onto like below the water.
Is it continuous light? Is it flash? Like, how does that whole situation work?
Yeah. So another thing that was so great about this, why we were able to do it so well, is that we did have a big team. So there was like 3 people on grip. There was like 3 people on safety. There was me, my team of 3. There was gaffers, like a really great gaffer. So we had a team of like 20 people, and we had experts from all this. So we had a lighting expert. Like he had done underwater stuff before, but he was like a Hollywood expert in lighting.
Just new lighting in general, no matter what.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we had a 20-foot by 20-foot softbox like on a jib.
Oh,
So we were able
Okay.
to huge bright light like over the pool that we could move around on this crane and make it however we wanted.
right.
So that helped a lot. When I was going in, I wasn't sure like what we would be doing. Like I'm not used to lighting stuff like that. I'm used to shooting underwater with underwater lights. So I brought like a bunch of different underwater light options. But then in the morning when we tested them, like it just wasn't quite right. So yeah, we set up the night before. We get there that next day, and we have her body double come in, Billy's body double come in, and then that's when we really dialed in the lighting. And like I said, we had this 20 by 20 foot softbox. So like for any photographer, it's like a dream.
Yeah.
And we hung that over the pool and moved it to different heights, different angles, and then we had a couple smaller ones on the sides too. And the way that it worked, as you can see in the video too, like I would just go down with my camera and shoot images, come up and review. I had 2 underwater housings, and both the housings had monitors above the camera, so I could see everything I was doing. And these monitors were then linked to 3 monitors above the water, so we were shooting tethered. So we had my monitor underwater. We had a monitor right next to the pool that me and Billy would review the images on. And then there was like a monitor for her manager and a monitor for her family who was hanging out. So it was another thing. It's like I'd never shot tethered like this underwater ever before.
Yeah.
Trying to figure it out, and like had to rent some gear. And anybody who shoots this kind of stuff now that I've done it, it's just so prone to problems when you're trying to tether underwater. Like it's like a miracle. That's why we had 2 setups. And even then, one of the underwater monitors on the housing actually flooded during the shoot. So good thing we had a backup, and my buddy knew what he was doing. So he kind of like, I saw it was flooding. It popped out right away, gave it to him, and he dried it out. But one of them was done, but we had a backup. And then we were basically in the pool for Billy was in for like 6-7 hours. I was in the pool for like 10 hours or something, getting it all dialed in before. I would be on a hookah, which is like a air support to the surface. So not like scuba gear with a tank, just like a tank on the surface. And then I'd jump down, take photos, come up, like give me a lot more maneuverability. And the coolest part about the whole thing was kind of what you were talking about, Cameron, where like the problem solving. Like I had so many people come up to me after the shoot and just be like, "You're a great director. Like you're such a good director. Thank you for doing this. It was so great working with you."
It's amazing.
Because I was in my element, and I was like talking to the gaffers, I was talking to the safety, I was talking to my team, and like just communicating and pulling it all together. And because I had all this experience shooting low budget productions for the dive industry, I knew how to do all these different parts and I knew how to make it work. And then it was just like
anticipate as well, like anticipate probably what your crew are doing as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was just like on a big, like on the grand stage kind of thing. So I'm used to this stuff from doing it, but I've never had such good equipment, such good experts to work with, like such good support. So that combined was just like, boom, just so sick. It was funny. So Billy would go down. You could see this in the video too. Like we put some weights on her so that she would stay underwater. Underwater a little bit better. She would breathe like 100% oxygen at the surface off a regulator so she could hold her breath longer. And then the safety team, the head safety dude was also named Billy. I'm also named Billy. There was Billie Eilish, and then my assistant was also named Billy. So there was 4 of us at once, like 3 of us in the pool, 1 right above, working on this shoot together. It's hilarious. It was great.
The fact. So I was blown away by the BTS. To the fact that, well, firstly, it's cool that you are able to bring in a body double, and that's when you know you're on a big shoot, right? I did a commercial once with a footballer, and they brought in a body double to dial everything in first. It's the same height, looks the same, similar skin tone, and like so that was really cool. But also the fact that she spent 7 hours in the water getting this right, and obviously in the BTS you just see her falling, and you kind of get the shot, and it almost looks like, oh, it only took you guys like an hour, but the fact she was in there for 7 hours, kind of grafting away, and you were in there for 10, like, tell us kind of what that was like, and how, was she like determined to get the shot right? Were you trying different things, or?
Yeah, she was, she's got her vision. She was very determined. She was also super nice, super great to work with. Like from the beginning, there was just like a regular person, just like super nice. So we talked before she got in, obviously. We talked about her vision and then some things that I wanted to do and kind of figured out the best way forward. It was, the other thing was like she was going underwater. She doesn't have a mask or anything. So like that's hard on your eyes. But then there was also some sort of chemical leaking in from the crane that we were using for the light box. So like her eyes were just getting blasted, not just by like water, but by like nasty shit. So she was coming up after all the dives, and she had her team like putting eye drops in her eyes. I'm just like, I'm sorry, it's like not that bad. Like sorry. But we had, so there was the main cover shot, which is her with the door. So we shot that after we shot the rest of the stuff. We also shot all of her marketing materials for the album. The back cover, which is like, that was the shot that I was the most worried about, because the back cover, it looks like she's actually in like this deep abyss.
Yeah.
And really it's only 10 feet deep, 20 feet wide. And I wasn't sure how we would be able to create it quite right. So we spent quite a bit of time doing that without the door. And that's probably my favorite photo, truthfully, because like that's when they contacted me, hey, we like these photos of this person with the whale. Could you like make that in the studio for us? Like that same look. Like that was what I was expecting, and I knew it was going to be difficult. And the way it came out in the end, I was super, super stoked with. And to be able to, and to know that like I can do a shoot like that in a pool and make it look like the ocean is really good for the future too.
Yeah. It does make me think of, because at least in my experience, a lot of times you can be shooting famous people where it's like their sponsor and they're kind of like in a shoot, like on video or whatever, and they're kind of like, they're not like personally Matt, you might need to help me out. Invested, that's it. Whereas on a shoot like this, where obviously like the music album is like it's Billie's music, so she also wants to present it to the world properly and be dialed in on everything. So it's weird how you can get people that are, whereas in my experience, I'm speaking from like footballers, and it's just their sponsors and their products that they need to shoot with. But then you've got the other side of it where it's like these people, it's like a true collaboration where they're a creative just like you are, and they're like, oh yeah, this is great, can we try this as well? And they're very open and not really strict. Like you imagine that working with like these big people, the times and the schedules are very dialed in, and then you work with them and they're like, wow, it's actually really fun, like I think we're friends. And you end up just being like, so yeah, it's interesting how like the collaboration really helps make you, like your work ends up better because the people on set are actually really easy and
Yeah.
flexible. And yeah, like that's really cool that you got that shot and you came away with like that being your favorite piece and having time as well, like 7 hours. Like at least in my experience, again, like celebrities and famous people don't hang around that long on set, like when you're shooting them. So it's good that you had them there for that long.
Well, it's like the collaboration element was super strong, and it was so cool to have that, artists working together. Like, and she knew what she wanted really well, so she had her vision, which also really helped a lot. But then the other thing was that she was willing to. Oh yeah, because it was her, like kind of what you were saying, Cameron. It was her vision. It was her music. She knew what she wanted, and she knew that she wanted to do this shoot. So at one point, 3-4 hours into the shoot, she's looking pretty miserable, and she says, like, "Thank God I'm shooting this like for myself and not for a brand, or I would be so mad right now." So like because it was her for her and what she wanted, that's what let her like stay longer, try like make sure that we got it for sure, because she was shooting it for herself. She wasn't shooting it for a company. She was shooting it like for her music, for her vision. So that was what, like, the only reason why she stayed that long. Like if we were shooting it for some brand, she probably would have tried to get it done in an hour or two for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, like that. Oh, sorry, Matt, I'm cutting you off. But again, that thing where like you forget that they're kind of just like you. Like if you're doing your own personal projects and you're trying to shoot your own stuff, like you do kind of always just be like, I've not got it yet, or you try and you might spend like days just researching and finding references and all this stuff and really putting your all into it. And it's kind of like if you were famous, like if yourself was like super famous, you'd probably just be exactly the same. Like the creative part is always with you regardless.
Right.
So yeah,
it's definitely like that for me. Like that's why I do it. Like it's so hard to be motivated for me by money. It's like I'm motivated by the experience and by shooting and by creativity and by working with people. So yeah, the more collaboration, the better.
Yeah. How long did you have to sit on, like, in terms of like the post-production, was it a long time to wait before the album came out? Did you have to like keep quiet about it? Like, what was that process like?
Yeah, I had to keep quiet about it, but it was pretty fast as far as these kind of things go. The editing was, so I also did the photo editing. Me and my team did all the editing as well, as the photography. And it was a lot. Like, I think we did like 23 rounds of edits or something like that.
Yeah.
Because it was like such a specific vision that she wanted. And it probably took 8 rounds or so before we started to even like dial down the actual images that we would use. There was a lot of similar images that, slight differences, and then just small variations in like luminance and in color and saturation in detail. Like it was the most intense post-production, especially for photography, that like I've ever been a part of. But once again, it was great because like they trusted me to do it and they knew what they wanted, but they knew that like I was the guy for it. So even though like it became a lot of different, like, we would finish what we would think would be like the final one, and then they would go back to the beginning and like switch a totally different image and then start it again.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. It was like the spirit of collaboration. It was the spirit of creativity, like getting this thing done correctly, how she wants it and how I know it's good. And yeah, so it was cool. And it was probably like 2 months, 3 months,
That's
something
not too
like
long
that
to wait.
at all.
Okay.
Like between the shoot and, because I think it came out like May. It was so, this whole thing was so intense because it was like, so I was going through a divorce at the time with my ex-wife, like right when I was contacted by Billie, and it was just like pure chaos, craziness, like this whole time, right before shooting, after shooting. Like that's why I was so thankful that everything came together so good, because it was like one bright point in my life at the time. And then in the same week, like the album came out, my divorce got finalized. I was in Mexico and there was like a solar eclipse and we swam with bull sharks and all this stuff happened like in the same week. And it's just like life is just so crazy how things kind of fall in place and don't and fall out of place. And so the whole thing is wild.
And also, especially with like our work and again being creatives and stuff, your personal life really impacts sort of like the showing up part to be the creative and to think, kind of like keep that creative flow going. So yeah, it is, in a way, your lifestyle is almost all connected.
Absolutely,
job.
Way more than people who just have like regular careers.
Yeah, like punching in
more.
and
True.
Yeah.
What did your career look like once that album came out? Because like we kind of touched on earlier, it's very different to the work you were kind of showcasing to the world. And then you drop this album cover that's like one of the biggest album covers of this generation. It's a huge, like, photographers dream of shooting something that big their entire career. So then once that's out, what did it change your career? Did you see a lot of opportunities that were more along people impulse and not obviously nature? And like, what happened? What was the aftermath like?
First of all, it was crazy seeing like what fans are actually like. Like Billie's fans are insane. They're awesome. They're great. I love them. But they're like, they're so intense. And it was so cool just having, I got, over the course of a few months, I got like 200,000 more followers on Instagram. I was just getting hit up constantly by all of these people, also by a lot of media organizations talking about it. And that was a little bit tough because really, like you said the other day, like earlier, Billie didn't release the behind the scenes until just recently. And basically I wasn't able to like talk about anything or post anything unless it was already public knowledge. So I couldn't really talk about the shoot that much in the time right after it. Like it took over a year before I was able to, or about a year before I was able to actually talk about stuff. So that was weird getting like hit up constantly, but there was articles in like New York Times, Rolling Stone, just like every like really big organization. Another thing that was really, really awesome about Billie is that I feel like this is probably pretty rare among musicians at her caliber, celebrities of this caliber, was like she tagged me on the post on Instagram when she released it. Like it's still there. Like you go to her profile and click the image and it's like William Drumm, Billie Eilish, like both tagged.
That's
and
huge.
They also asked for any media organization to give me photo credit whenever they're using it too. So like
Amazing.
That's like my name is in all of those as far as like all the different places where it was published. So that was really sick. And the way that I explain it as far as like the transition in my career that came from this, this whole thing was tied in with my personal life, Cameron, like you were mentioning. It's all the same thing. It's like I don't have a separation between my personal life and my business, or it's veiled. So we made actually a little short film about this that's called Awakening. We had a film release a couple months ago. My friend made it. It came out super good. And it's going to be on my website. We're just finishing like the online version now. But the way that I explain it is basically before everything kind of fell apart with my marriage and before this Billie Eilish shoot, because it all happened at the same time, like I really thrived in the unpredictable environments that we talked about earlier as far as weather, animals, visibility, all this kind of stuff, and then just like getting thrown in the mix, being prepared and trying to handle it. But then through the struggles that I had, through the success with the Billie Eilish shoot, and also just through my like changes in my creative vision, now I really like having a little bit more control over the elements, and I really love shooting underwater with models, being like in the situation where I can control it a little bit more, have a little bit more structure. So really like now I think that my goal and what I'm doing with my career is trying to combine those two things. So that could be like shooting with models or musicians or whoever it is in really beautiful places in nature with animals, but with a much more structured set, like creative goal for the shoot. So that's kind of where I'm trying to go now and build out into more and more commercial photography, like with those elements.
Yeah, that's really good that you enjoy that because I'm just going to use myself as an example, but like I do DOP in video, but recently over the last year I've gone into 3D and visual effects. But it's strange how the stuff in like this side of things can sort of come over, and so similar to you where you're used to shooting in like unplanned environments and there's a lot of unpredictability, and then when you eventually take that stuff, the reason why you're probably so good in those controlled environments is because you are used to coming over from this other stuff. So it's like when you think about yourself in 5 years' time, you kind of have no idea what the hell you're going to be shooting because you think in 5 years I might actually really like being completely in studio and shooting in controlled environments. So yeah, it's weird how the evolution of creativity, just like as an individual and in your own life and stuff, can just change by growing as a person. And
yeah,
again,
and
like
also honestly another big factor is I have a 5-year-old daughter who I love so much. I'm a single dad. I got her 50% of the time, and so I don't want to travel all the time either, but I need to be shooting underwater, like I was saying earlier. It's like where I thrive. It's where my mind is at peace. So shooting in a pool is the solution. So like my 5-year plan includes building like a sick pool studio in my backyard.
Wow, okay.
And like being able to do shoots like the Billie Eilish shoot, other commercial shoots right here at home, have people come to me for these productions.
Sick.
Yeah.
That's yeah. We'll hold you to that in a few
you guys
years' time.
come visit.
Yeah, for sure. Please tell me you've got a copy of the album cover framed somewhere in your home.
Got a couple of them.
Yeah, good. That's rule number one.
So with the pool, sorry, I just, it's like I'm really excited about it right now. But
of course, go on.
You know how in Hollywood right now they're doing a lot of like LED screens in the background, using that as the set.
Yeah,
I want to do that in a pool so that I can still shoot like I'm in the ocean and still have a background like it's the ocean, but then like make it realistic and shoot it in Denver, Colorado. So
that would be
what I want to do.
Mega.
Yeah, I wonder if you would have the pool as the screens, like the edge of the pool is the screen compared to like screens beyond the outside, or I wonder what the logistics of that.
I think it would be like basically here's the side of the pool, and then the LED screens are against the side of the pool, and then there's like a sheet of plexiglass over them. So it's like a side of the pool would be like LED screens.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that off the top of my head, that would be the way to go as well, I imagine. But I guess with video, you would have to have the screen's motion track to the things. But with photography, it might be different. You might just be able to like have a computer on the side that just like rotates it for you and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
It's
exciting. And the other thing about the shoot with Billie Eilish is it changed my like understanding of lighting for underwater because I've never used topside artificial lighting for an underwater shoot before. And since then, because of that shoot, I got a handful of projects afterwards, and one of them was shooting a documentary about this Special Olympian who runs triathlons, who lost one of her legs, like in Iraq. She was a soldier, and we shot it in this pool in Colorado Springs and used big artificial lights to create the sun, like the sunbeam effect, like I call them God beams, like the beams that are really strong coming down.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. And so that's another like step in the journey where it's like, oh, okay, like I can create these effects that I like shooting in caves and cenotes in a pool. Like it's possible to do. Yeah, and now I'm just keeping that.
I can just imagine you kind of like having your pool where you have your screens and everything, but then there's just like crazy light rigs just like over it as well. And
exactly.
in the end, you're like, I wasn't building it for this, but this is like what it's become, and I guess now I just have like this crane and stuff in my garden or whatever.
No, that's that'd be so cool to. Hopefully, you can do the pool at home, and hopefully experiment more with like the lighting. Is it always continuous light? I'm guessing it's not flash.
For me, it's always continuous, but that's underwater too. A lot of underwater photographers use strobes.
Okay.
But really, my career was like I made all my money in underwater video, and then like it plateaued, and then now I make most of my money in underwater photography. So because I started with underwater video, like obviously that's all constant light.
Yeah.
And as the lighting gets better, like the technology gets better, you can get super bright constant lights, and I'm already used to working with it. I think a lot of times you can create more natural looking, like artificially lit scenes with constant light than with strobes. So I just never found it like necessary to kind of switch to strobes.
Yeah, they're just tools, just whatever,
whatever
is the
right
thing. Yeah,
and I prefer not using artificial light for underwater photography. The cameras have just got good enough for the biggest reason that they were so important was because like color disappears underwater. Like you lose red in the first 10, 15 feet, and then you lose the other colors the deepest you go.
Oh.
Yeah. So you can look up a diagram of it. We've filmed videos before where we like get a bunch of different colors and then dive down to 100 feet, and you could see just like all the colors going flat. So in the past, you really needed the artificial light to create any sort of a cool looking scene. Otherwise, it was all just blue. Yeah. But as the technologies got better, as the cameras have got better, with custom white balance, now you can use that instead. And I like the natural looking aspects of not using artificial light. So I only use artificial light when I really have to.
Yeah, fair.
That is so crazy, because I was just thinking earlier when you was explaining like shooting underwater how from my perspective it's like going to a different planet. It's like imagine having to go to the shoot on the moon, and they're like, hey, don't forget to wear your astronaut suit, you need to be able to breathe, all this. And it's kind of the same underwater. And again, like all these things with I guess it depends like what people wear, like, because if your colors disappear, then if you're wearing like a red shirt, then it might be like, well, we need to figure out how that's going to work with the talent and stuff like that. So yeah, those are just problems that like me and Matt do not even have to like worry about at all when we're doing shoots. So it's such a different world. Yeah, it's unbelievable, honestly. Like it's so specialized that it's that's crazy.
It's also really fun. Like I've shot a lot of models in the last year in pools, and I've had some of them who'd been modeling since they were like little kids, been modeling for 10 years or something. And they're like, this was the most fun shoot that I've ever done. Like, this was so fun. So it's also just super fun and great. And you've got the creativity aspect. It's different. It's new to people. And the images are so cool because the light is so cool. Like I'm just fascinated by the way that different lights behave underwater between the surface and the reflections and all of it. It's fun. It's neat.
Yeah, I was going to ask that just as the last question before we start wrapping up, Matt, because we are getting on for an hour. Just over an hour. Yeah. But I'm just wondering, like, so you put a lot of emphasis on like light and the water, and I'm just wondering what was how did you kind of discover that as like your thing? Because you've got it in your bio on Instagram as well, and you've got it on your website and things like that. And so is there like just something about that, like using light underwater and how it is different than out of the water, and like what you can make? Maybe that's like a really shitty way of asking the question.
I know what you're saying though. It's just like the dynamic aspects of it. Like, I don't know. I can shoot a product in a foot of water and play with the surface for hours, and it's not just the light, it's the way that things reflect off of the surface, and it's just all so dynamic and just like infinitely beautiful and infinitely different, and it's just really fascinating for me to be able to like play with that, and with the model photography too. I've got a bunch of shoots coming up, and a lot of it is like trying to create more artistic kind of ways of showing this reflection off the surface combined with light beams and all the crazy things that you can do with it. At one point, I got fascinated with soap bubbles, like shooting above water, because soap bubbles, bro, it's like a universe. You have one soap bubble, you hit it with a light, and it does insane things for days and days and days. And it's like, it's the same kind of thing. It's just so dynamic, so beautiful. And I just get lost in it.
Sick. We love
that's amazing. Yeah.
We love the passion.
Yeah. And like,
what we want.
I want to ask another question, but I'm going to,
I'm
conscious about how long the episode's
we'll move on to the last question that we ask all of our guests. And that is, do you have any late invoices?
Yes.
I'd be worried if you said no.
It's a common trope in the industry.
100%. It's like, with me being a single dad and trying to maintain the business and everything, I'm really trying to get a lot better at like maintaining a set schedule, but it's not who I am naturally at all. So like it's a big challenge just running the business and also keeping the creativity alive. Yeah, exactly. And I'm getting better at it, but man, sometimes like last year I went on 3 international trips like in a month, and recovering from that afterwards was just like, bro, so hard. So I'm trying to travel like every other month now, and then spend a solid like 5 weeks, 6 weeks with a set schedule, like working on the business, working on like keeping things moving. And I'm in that phase right now, so I'm glad you guys hit me up when you did, because it's perfect time to talk.
Perfect.
It's it never ends. It's always
it's such a tough thing to balance. You can either be too much creative and then you let the business side slide, and for one thing I've learned, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, is it can be so business heavy if you want it to be, but it can be so beneficial for your business. Like if you're not tapping into, the marketing strategy and like how you do your outreach and staying on top of finances and all that kind of stuff, if you're not like looking into that and investing in yourself in those areas, then you are leaving so much on the table. But that's a whole nother world that you can get so like wrapped up in, and the more you do, the creative side just doesn't get touched. So it's like this constant seesaw and constant battle. So
I love the way you described that, and it's so true. Like either way, you'll screw yourself. Like it's so easy to get lost in the creative aspect, and then the business suffers. It's easy to get lost in focused on the business aspect, and then like you lose your passion, creativity. You got to get it back. So it's it's a seesaw. It's fun, but it's a lot.
I think that's Cameron, that's an episode we should discuss. That's a topic we should discuss on another show. I think that's a good talking point.
That sounds good.
But anyway, thank you so much for coming on, William. Really
super fun.
Does everyone call you William? Like what?
So I've been a Bill, I've been a Billy, I've been Willie, but I'm 40 years old now. I'm trying to get my life more organized. I'm going by William moving forward. It's official.
William.
I'm William.
Okay.
Do we use Billy in the UK as someone called like? Because I think that what we do, if they're called William, I think the default is Will.
We don't hear. No.
In the UK, we don't use Billy. No.
I've got 4 friends called William, and not one of them is called Billy.
What about Bill?
Will.
Not Bill.
No Bill either.
No.
Yeah, it's a weird one, man.
yeah. But anywho, thank you, William, for coming on. It means a lot. And for those that have listened, where can they find you? Instagram name? Is it just William Drumm on Instagram?
Yeah, William Drumm on Instagram. I'd love to hear from anybody. Send me a DM. Hit me up. Would love to talk to you guys, and this was really fun. I'll do it again if you guys want. Come to Denver sometime if you want. I'm here for it.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Get that jacuzzi swimming pool thing built.
Yeah.
All right, fine.
Nice. Just stay in the call anyway. Like we'll end the recording, but
cool.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. It's been amazing to speak to you, and super interesting. Definitely a different episode than usual with the niche you're in, especially. It's crazy. Cool. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Awesome.
So yeah, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks, guys.